to this video. My name is Joseph Malone, and I am a historian who studies Nazi Germany and Holocaust history. The purpose of this video is to introduce myself, introduce some of the ideas that I have for this channel, and then also discuss what you can expect to see from me in the near future as far as content on this channel. So to begin, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my educational background and then also my work background and why all of this really means a lot to me. And so to begin, I have a master's degree in history and a bachelor's degree in history. Both of these degrees are from the Arizona State University. And in my graduate program, my focus, as I stated before, was on Nazi Germany and the Holocaust and more broadly World War II. But my specific focus in history and what I did my research on was the Nazis' use of propaganda as a terror mechanism in Germany. Particularly, I was looking at the pre-war years. So this is 1933 to 1938, so the 5-year span. And I was interested in how it worked to advance their strategic and ideological goals. And so in Germany at this time, we have to understand the Nazi ideology. They had these particular thoughts that Jews and other races were inferior, but they also had strategic ideas in that they wanted to rule the continent of Europe, control the resources, and so forth. And so I'm really interested in that was part of my project and how they used the mechanism of propaganda to get the things that they wanted out of the people of Europe and particularly Germany. So that's my research background. As far as work background, I was a graduate teaching assistant at Arizona State University. I worked with PhD students, and I also worked with more senior faculty teaching a variety of different courses. And so that was a really interesting experience. I'm forever grateful and indebted to Arizona State University for the opportunity to do that for my master's degree. I was also a 7th grade world history teacher, and so in that class we went everywhere from the scientific revolution, then we got to political revolutions, then we got to the industrial revolution. We went into World War I, we went into World War II, and we made it all the way up to the end of the Cold War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and so forth. So that was a really interesting class to teach as well. Now, today, I don't work in my field professionally, but I still do research on the side as I'm preparing to write this book on the work that I did in my graduate program and, transferring that into a book. And I still do tutor and teach college students how to do historical research. This is something I'm really passionate about is, helping students craft that question, helping them find the resources that they're going to need for their project and helping them organize their thoughts. It's really, really important to me. So I want to talk a little bit about why history is so important to me. I mean, after all, I spent 7 to 8 years studying history. And so I just want to talk about a little bit why this is so important. So one of the reasons why history is super important to me is because I do believe, and it probably sounds super cliche, but I believe this, that as a civilization, if we don't learn from our mistakes, that we're doomed to make the same mistakes over and over and over. And that's true in life, but it's also true in a broader sense in the civilization and so far as governments and the changes of financial systems. I mean, we see a little bit of that playing out today in the way that things are going in the United States, for example. But I'll never forget, I had a 3rd grade teacher, and he told me, he said, son, if you don't know where you've come from, you can't possibly understand where you're going. And so I've kind of always kept that quote in the back of my head And so history has always been something particularly interesting to me because I've realized throughout my study, my extended study of it, is that history is not just events, places, and dates. History is really the study of choices. It's the study of decisions. And why did the people make the decisions, make the choices that they made? That's really at the core of what history is really about. And so that's something that I'm really passionate about. I want people to understand because I talk to so many people, even when I was a teacher, and even now, just out in life, as I talk about my passions, people are like, "Oh, well, history like that, that's old, that's boring. Nobody wants to learn." But it's so relevant, and I wish that people could understand that it really can be interesting if you change the way that you look at it. So that's one of the things. One of the reasons why I'm really passionate about history. The second reason is that I really think that history is a great way to facilitate development of the human mind. I think that if a person can learn how to think critically or think for themselves rather, then the sky is the limit for you. Because we live in a world that's always going to be telling you how to think, what you should feel, what you should do. But if you can put all of that aside and see things for what they really are and see things and prioritize things based on your own values and things that you think are important, um, the sky, there's nothing that anybody can tell you you can't do, you shouldn't do, because you know and you see what is really happening for yourself. So history is a great vehicle for developing that in the human mind because there's so many different perspectives. Okay, you have this one historian who's writing from this perspective, and you have to look at, well, his biases, or you have this other person who's writing from this perspective. Okay, well, what is his biases? Why is he saying the things that he's saying? What is this person's background? How did they grow up? And so it is an excellent topic for developing the human mind, and for developing critical thinking and for developing the ability for one to think for themselves. And so that's something that I'm really passionate about. And I hope that on this channel, I'm able to help facilitate that in some of the people who are listening to me and learning from me. So, with that being said, I'm going to just discuss some of the ideas that I brainstormed just a little bit, and then I'm going to get into discussing what is to come next. So, one of the topics I thought about was how can a dictatorship rise within the confines of a democracy? We saw this happen in Nazi Germany in the transition from the Weimar Republic, which was a form of a democratic government, and we saw that transition go from democracy, republicanism, into dictatorship as Hitler seized power. How does that happen? It's a legitimate question, and because today, unfortunately, nearly 100 years later, we're still plagued with those same conditions and those same questions. And so that's something that I've thought about. Propaganda. This is my expertise. How does it work? Then and now. There's a lot that we can learn from, say, for example, Nazi Germany. But I think propaganda is a really important concept to understand, to really break down and unpack on the fact that every day you're confronted, you can't escape it. You turn on your TV, you're likely going to be confronted with some propaganda. You get on social media, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it may be, you're likely going to be confronted with some propaganda. You cannot escape it. Propaganda is everywhere. There's information that is half truth, not the entire truth, the stretching of the truth. And so talking about that, unpacking that, I think can be super interesting. The history of anti-Semitism. This is something that is still plaguing society to this day, still plaguing the Jewish community to this day. We've seen it in the Israel and Palestinian conflict. We've seen it in Iran's vow to destroy the Jewish state. I mean, we've seen the overt manifestations of anti-Semitism. And so the question is, well, why is that the case? I don't think that here in the United States, we spend a lot of time in school learning about why that is the case. And it actually is very interesting because there's a lot of history there that can be unpacked that we can talk about in the forming of the modern anti-Semitism that we see today and that we even saw in Nazi Germany not about nearly 100 years ago. All of that, I think, is also intersected with why are Jews hated? Why do people not like the Jews? I think anti-Semitism is very interrelated with that question. Why are Jews hated? I think that that's a question that a lot of people have, and I have some opinions, some thoughts on it, and so I'd like to unpack that with you guys as well. Another topic that I had, but I did not write in the slideshow, is the concept, the institutions of slavery. I think in the United States we learn about slavery and we learn about the American institution of slavery, but we don't learn that slavery was actually a world institution on every continent. On nearly every continent, you had some form of enslavement, some form of bondage that was taking place far before the American institution of slavery ever even became a thing. And so, but we don't learn about that. We don't talk about the world slavery that took place. And so I think if we learn a little bit more about slavery as a world institution, I think it may shed a little bit of light on the American institution and perhaps change some of the ways that we see those events that took place as well. So, what to expect next in the immediate future? What you can expect is I'm going to be making a series on how propaganda is used and how it works. And so I'm going to begin there. We're going to take some examples from Nazi Germany. We're going to look at some examples from today, and we're going to really understand how propaganda, how it's used and how it works. Because again, this is something that in our society there are so many ways of getting out propaganda, far more than what Hitler had at his disposal, that we really have to be armed with the knowledge and the wisdom to understand the information that we see may not always be 100% accurate, may not be accurate at all. And so we're going to begin there. And so I just want to thank everybody. If you've listened to me these past couple 13 minutes, a little bit over, but if you've listened to me the entirety of the video, I appreciate it. If any of the content sounds interesting to you, I encourage you to subscribe. And with this video, if you liked it, please go ahead and like the video as well. So thank you guys so much. And until the next time, bye bye.